fall, the sun again rises from the east. Sam, that was awesome. Thank you, good sir. We appreciate it. Can you, look how tall he is now, y'all. You remember when he was a little boy? He's not anymore. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. And Diane, thank you. Nick, thank you. Everyone, thank you. The New Testament reading for this morning comes from Luke 11, 1 through 13, and I invite you to listen as I read. It is on the Pew Bible on page 1613. 1613 in your Pew Bible should you want to read along. One day, Jesus was praying in a certain place. When he finished, one of his disciples said to him, "Lord, teach us to pray, just as John taught his disciples." And he said to them, "When you pray, say, 'Father, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come. Give us each day our daily bread. Forgive us our sins, as we also forgive everyone who sins against us. And lead us not in temptation.'" And then he said to them, "Suppose one of you has a friend. Then he goes to him at the midnight and says, 'Friend, lend me 3 loaves of bread, because a friend of mine on a journey has come to me, and I have nothing to set before him.' Then the one inside answers, 'Don't bother me. The door is already locked and my children are in bed with me. I can't get up and give you anything.' I tell you, though, he will not get up and give him the bread because he is his friend. Yet, because of the man's boldness, he will get up and give him as much as he needs. So I say to you, ask, and it will be given to you. Seek, and you will find. Knock, and the door will be opened to you. For everyone who asks receives. He who seeks finds, and to him who knocks the door will be opened. Which of you fathers, if your son asks for a fish, will give him a snake instead? Or if he asks for an egg, will give him a scorpion? If you then, though you are evil, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father in heaven give the Holy Spirit to those who ask him?" This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. And now our hymn today is "This Is the Day" by Joanne. It's underneath there. Shall I keep going? Right, but okay. Thank you for that. I needed to hear more music.
We aim to please.
You shall receive is the sermon title. And when I was in seminary, there was a gentleman who was one of my professors, and his name was Dr. Sheryl Guthrie, and yes, he was a gentleman. And he used to talk about how he was teased as a kid because his name was Sheryl. But this is what he said in one of my textbooks, and I thought it was appropriate for today. You are not only a Christian, you are either male or you're female, whose life, in fact, is not in theory, is as much determined as your sexual as by your religious needs and desires and thoughts and instincts. You are deeply involved not only in the Christian way of life, but also in the American way of life, which is something quite different. And even when you put aside the newspaper and other secular literature and read the Bible and this book about theology, you will bring to your religious studies all your secular problems, desires, opinions, whether you want to or not. And only when you do that will you fulfill the task of a good theologian, one who thinks and speaks about both the truth and the true God and the real human beings in the real world. Now, others of you are not impressed with such statements and won't buy anything until you're shown its truth and relevance. And as such, you have what they call a real pastor that deals with the real issues of life and of death. And we, as a community, can still receive. The analogy that I read with Hosea, in the book of Hosea, is that Gomer, of course, she betrayed her husband because she was a prostitute as the Israelites betrayed God. She was laying with others as a prostitute would do for monetary means, and as Israel did. And as Israel was unfaithful to God. And they used their blessings of crops as offerings to the idols. The Israelites mistreated others and God, as Gomer mistreated her husband and her family. Now, the reality is that the word betrayal, disloyalty, perfidy or perfidiousness, bad faith or duplicity, deception, double dealing, a breach of faith is one of the most difficult human frailties to overcome, as some of us with gray hair can attest to. And yet, is the greatest downfall of marriages and relationships to date. And even though God was grievous and angry at the Israelites' behavior to God and toward one another, God's Israel was yet punished, and then they were restored. The people of Judah and the people of Israel were reunited, and they will appoint one leader, our scripture says, and will come up out of the land, for great will be the day of Jezreel again. Hosea 1:11. And the Lord said to me, go. And this is Hosea talking. The Lord said to me, go, show your love to your wife again. Love her as the Lord loves the Israelites. And then God said, for my anger has turned away. Now let's go to Luke real quick. We're going to deal with that. I'm just going to leave it there. Luke 11, 1 through 13. Jesus was praying, you remember, in that certain place. And the one of his disciples asked Jesus if he would teach him how to pray. And to pray earnestly, to pray with integrity, to pray with persistence, to pray to the point, to be specific. And as we were talking to these young people today, prayer does not have to be long or complicated. But prayer is perseverance, and God does reward. Now, I was reading another pastor. He was a professor at, I'll just say at my seminary, Columbia. And he had a story about a man that had decided that he was going to cut through the graveyard. Because when he cut through the graveyard after the graveyard shift, he got home about 7 minutes earlier. Well, one of the nights he's so busy cutting through and making it home, because if you work graveyard, you know you want to get home, right? So he's cutting and going through, and boom, he lands in a grave. A freshly dug grave for a funeral that was supposed to be happening the next day. And he tried to get out, and he couldn't quite get there. So he decided, well, I'm gonna settle in. And he gathered his coat up around his neck, and he finds a corner on the grave, in the grave, leans up against it, falls asleep. 20 minutes later, another man who was cutting through the graveyard, now I don't know if he was on the graveyard shift or not, but he was cutting through, and he fell in. And he saw him trying to get out of the grave. And he woke up and he kind of said, well, you're never going to get out of this grave. Well, that man decided, you know what, I'm going to get away from you somehow when somebody's talking to me in the grave. He climbed out and he slid down, climbed out, slid down, climbed out, slid down, and finally he got to the top. And he was out. And I suppose the gist of the story is, you gotta keep praying. You don't just pray quickly or just give it up. You have to be consistent in your prayer life. If you ask, you will receive. Now, some of you are looking like, yeah, right. Hosea, on this side, I'll just say Hosea over here. Hosea was a prophet that was obedient to God, and God gave him the worst of the worst, a woman who would betray him. God knew what betrayal feels like, and it hurts. And he even sent his only son, the one that saved us, Jesus Christ, later on to save us. And you remember, on the night that Jesus was betrayed, he took the bread and he broke it. And he said to his disciples, "Take, eat. This is my body broken for you." Not knowing that his body would literally be broken. Jesus might have known, but they didn't. And then he took the cup and he poured, and he said, "This is my blood shed for you. And as often as you eat of this bread and drink of this cup, you do so until I return again." And then Jesus went out to his disciples, and you remember he was praying, and his disciples kept falling asleep. They kept falling asleep. And then you remember the men start to come, and when he came, of course there was somebody, another disciple with him, that kissed him on both cheeks. The betrayal was there. Now, if any of you know what betrayal feels like, can you put your foot and remember what that feels like? Hold on to it. Because now we're going to go over to Luke. And the disciples are asking Luke, in Luke, asking Jesus, "How do I pray? How do I pray?" And that's where some of us say the Our Father every day, who art in heaven. And we forgive those who have trespassed or sinned against us. Now I see some eyes turning away like, I'm not forgetting that sin. Not me. That sin hurt too deep. I carry the wound of that sin. And some of us take that same sin and we sort of hold on to it for the rest of our lives, and it becomes some part of us. And we become judgmental. And we point at other people, what they're doing, to keep them from, 3 fingers pointing at myself. So we know that God knew about betrayal and certainly sent his only son, body to break for us and blood to be shed. Now, we can take this, and what are we going to do with that stuff called betrayal? Because Dr. Guthrie was talking about the real sense of who we are as Christian beings. We carry, yes, our sex, our politics, our everything on our back, our opinions, and we bring it to this book called the Bible. And some of us sit in the grave and tell other people they can't get out. You didn't hear the man go over and say, "Here, let me bend over and let you get out, and then you help me get out." No, he just sat there and said, "No, you can't get out." But when Jesus is saying in Luke is prayer changes some stuff. I wonder what would have happened if one of those guys at least prayed. Yeah. I wonder what would have happened. Now, has anybody been broke? Anybody broke in here? Anybody been really broke? And I mean to the point where you don't know how you're going to pay your light bill, your mortgage, your gas. You know, you might not even have a car. But the gas, you know how gas is expensive, right? Can you imagine not being able to put $1 in your tank? Yeah, that kind of broke. The kind of broke where you turn on the water and it doesn't come out. And sometimes the only thing, you young people, sometimes when you're that broke, all you got is God. And so you sit down and ask, and sometimes things happen. I remember sitting at a bank, and I went to put some money in, and the lady said, you know, your bank account is below, and I owed the bank money. You know how they do that? You have to have a minimum balance. I didn't have a minimum balance. So I said, well, ma'am, what happened? And she said, well, it looks like your name is taken off of this account, and it doesn't belong to you anymore, so all the money is gone. And I said, well, let me see. She said, I can't show it to you because it doesn't belong to you anymore. And I just sat there, tears came. And I thought, how am I supposed to feed my kids? How am I supposed to get up out of here? And she said, honey, I tell you what, I have to go to the ladies' room, and I'm gonna leave my computer on. And I can't help it if you look and see what happened to your money. I'll be back. So I peeked. Lo and behold, the money was gone. And so she came back and she said, baby, I know you need some money. I just want to give you this real quick. And she rolled it up in my hand. And I just sat there and tears just came. Thanks, Mo, for your hand. I didn't know what else to do but to pray. And I pray that nothing like that happens to any of these young people or any of these older people. That is only God that moved that woman not only off of a dime, but off of $100. And she said, you know what? We're going to put back in those days, you could put open an account. Some of y'all remember. Let me look at Nick. You remember you could open up an account for $50? You know, sometimes. So I said, well, can I open up an account on my name and put half your money in, and I'll take half, and when I get my knees together, I'm going to bring you your money back. And she said, baby, we'll do that. That was my first account as an adult with 4 kids. Now, when we talk about receiving comes in so many ways. And yes, there is going to be betrayal in our lives. There is going to be betrayal so tough that we have marks on our arms. Some of us have been betrayed so tough that we're on the floor, can't even get up. But that's why there are people that are willing to help us move off the dime, so we don't fall into the grave and feel sorry for ourselves. There's all kinds of people out there, and you know who they are? They're you. They're me. They're all kind of Christians that believe and have different, yes, beliefs, different politics, different sex, different food, different experiences, different from me, different from you. But we all have a responsibility to watch out for each other, even when betrayal hits in our lives. Now, my mama used to say back in the day, she said, baby, that's my mom. She was about this big and little lady. And she said, babe, what will break one person doesn't break another. So that's why it's important that we have these different experiences. So my experience, even if I have not experienced the same thing as you, I'm strong now. I can put my hand out and I can pull you up out the grave. Because I haven't had that experience at that same time. Little people, you are amazing, young people, because you get to know what it's like to grow up with other people that love you. So when all of these people are gone, and we're really gone, dead in our graves, and you're still here, you can remember the lessons. You hold the baton. And so, I want to remind you of this. In the Old Testament, in Hosea, it says this, because folks don't remember sometimes that they have to go through a little something. And God said this, therefore I will block her path with thorn bushes. I will wall her in so that she cannot find her way. I will chase after her lovers, but not catch them. She will look for them, but not find them. I will stop all her celebrations, her yearly festivals, her new moons, her Sabbath days, all her appointed feasts. I will ruin her vines and her fig trees, which she said were her pay from her lovers. I will make them a thicket, and wild animals will devour them. I will punish her for the days she burned incense to the Baals. Those are the false gods. She decked herself in rings and jewelry and went after her lovers, but me she forgot, declares the Lord. So, I know I probably sound like a Baptist preacher. Tell them I didn't mean no harm. But sometimes us Presbyterians have to understand we walk through that fire. And we can get through, but we're going to walk through, and we can walk through together. We will receive together. And one example, just one example, is that this little church was not supposed to make it. This little church has people calling up, talking about, can I buy your church? Well, I'll switch with you. That was just last week. But this little church is still moving. It's still shaking. Shake your shimmy. Can you do that? Come on your shoulders. Y'all know where the shoulders do. Nobody has a shimmy. Oh, come on. Mo. You know, yeah, there you go. Shake your shimmy.